I'm going to reference Peter Drucker, which anyone that watches my work for more than 10 minutes knows I struggle not to reference Peter Drucker just because he's such a big influence on my perspective in terms of business. But obviously, he famously said you can't you can't manage what you can't measure, or you don't measure. Butchering it now after saying that. But the tools are there. The tools are there. We're starting to see them. We're starting to see them in different systems. Talk to us both from a broad perspective, but also from the synchron perspective, so we can see some kind of real world examples. How are you enabling organisations to do what Alex has just referenced? To be able to measure, to be able to demonstrate. Just talk to us a little bit about that, Justin.
I appreciate that question, Kris. And this is where I get passionate about the work, working with software solutions, because I get to bring these ideas to life and the tools with the product team that we have. But the industry as a whole, technology has really taken a step forward, and a lot of it starts with analytics. Obviously, there's a number of solutions, fantastic solutions available, where you're able to measure, and kind of review after the fact, how you've been performing, what your carbon footprint has been, and then you take this data and you kind of roll it back into your planning and iterate on it, going forward. So that way you can, monitor and measure your continuous improvement, if you will. Synchron, we have insights available, which is our analytics suite. We're driving that capability to review the actuals after it's done, but we've taken it a step further as well, and actually brought the conversation to the planning side. And so with our inventory solution as an example, aftermarket parts, having that availability, as we were discussing earlier, that part needs to be readily available ahead of the demand or in close proximity to it. So having a really good inventory plan is going to help minimize any sort of rush orders, and then furthermore, reduce your carbon footprint. In a lot of situations too, it actually reduces the cost when we can take out some of the obsolescence risk associated with it. But through this capability, the planning capability, or we call it our simulation tool, you're able to input, you're able to input a different service level that you're striving for, and then see the response associated with the carbon footprint in a number of different types of orders, whether it's on demand or rush orders, and then furthermore actually drill down further into the cell level or the product level and see the change in that simulation. So a lot of times, you're looking after the fact, oh, woulda, coulda, shoulda, in that situation, like, let's do this next year. We're trying to drive the capability upstream in the process such that you can run, 6, 10 scenarios and really balance that profitability, service level, the cost associated with the inventory, and carbon footprint is right there on the same playing field as the other variables too. So I think that's really going to help drive that mindset shift, bringing sustainability into the operations itself. And this is where, as I mentioned earlier, supply chains, in a lot of contracts, they're actually making it a requirement to print the carbon footprint associated with this trip through, what's the weight of the shipment associated with this product? What's the distance you're expected to travel? What's the carbon production associated with the method of transportation? And these are going to be dynamically changing variables. So obviously, this isn't a one-size-fits-all indefinitely, because I'm really excited to see this as electric vehicles become more and more relevant in the industry. A lot of those, the last mile, the trucks, the vans, those last mile shipments are going to change to, BEV or full EV, basically methods of transportation, which will reduce their carbon impact as well. So that's on the inventory side that we're focusing. The other aspect as well is really honing in on how that technician interacts with the asset in the field. And I mentioned technician enablement, making sure they know how to drive the fix the first time with the relevant information. But also, if parts are coming off of that asset when it's out in the field, what are they doing with that part? And I've spoken to a number of technicians and service leaders over my years, and I'd say 9 times out of 10 that's getting thrown somewhere in the truck behind you, and hopefully by the end of the week it makes it back to a depot shop somewhere. But that whole reverse logistics piece is somewhat inconsistent, I'd say, that I've seen across industries and across different companies that we work with. And that's a big piece because a lot of these components are high valued assets, and they do have a carbon footprint in and of itself from a production standpoint. So the other area where Synchron is really leaning in is trying to drive that circular economy. And what I mean by that is when that part comes off the asset, understanding very quickly where it needs to go, what condition it's in, and then driving it to that depot or repair center for repair or refurbishment such that it can be brought back into the stock itself. So you're kind of getting two benefits there with the aspect of this isn't just going straight to waste, you're able to reuse it, but because we have that full end-to-end suite of solutions, now you can take that data and roll it back into the inventory management side. So you can plan for what's the expected returns, the expected refurbishments associated with some of these components. And, you know, I got to tell you, and Alex, you mentioned it a few times from the CFO level, every time I go to an investor relations page for a publicly traded company now, it seems like, you know, sustainability is front and center. ESG goals have their own dedicated page, PDF, you know, hyperlink, you name it. And I'm starting to see circular economy more and more there because not only you're helping yourself from a carbon footprint perspective, but you're also mitigating your risk from a supply chain perspective. And, you know, I think if anything, if COVID has taught us anything over the past 2 years, it's supply chains can be flipped on their heads very quickly. So future proofing yourself with some of these additional methods that, again, pose dual benefits, higher profitability, higher sustainability. You know, it's only going to be better for the end customer at the end of the day. And ultimately, that's where we try to drive the value is the end customer doesn't want to have to wait for a part. They want the, you know, the fix as quickly as possible, the most uptime, and that's what we try to achieve.
Hi there, my name is Kris Oldland. I'm the Editor-in-Chief and founder of Field Service News. I hope you found that short excerpt from one of our in-depth, long-form interviews of use. If you did, then why not have a look at an FSM Pro membership? This will give you access to over 70 hours plus of in-depth, long-form interviews where you can access the full interview. You also get access to the world's leading resource library dedicated specifically to the field service management sector. Over 130 resources that cover key areas such as digital transformation in field service, remote service technology and how that aligns to on-site service delivery, servitization, advanced services. All of these key areas and many more. There are key resources so you can learn from your peers and those that are leading the way in how the field service world is evolving. There's also the new FSN education platform, and we're adding courses there every single month with already a number of masterclass courses that don't just give you knowledge but actually give you the blueprint so you can develop a program within your own organization and see real world value. You can access all of this content for just £450 a month, or you can access it on a monthly basis at £45 a month. Head over to fieldservicenews.com, subscribe and find out more.